Good morning, everyone. It's a beautiful Thursday morning. It's a little crisp outside, so I thought I would stay in this morning and do our Bible devotion. Um, I, I didn't want to get too chilled because, with this weather, my sinuses and allergies, they can, if I go from cool to warm, I don't know, it can just start that drainage stuff. So I have to watch it sometimes in the mornings, but I just wanted to give you a short word of encouragement from our book, Acres of Diamonds, and just, let you start your day off right. Start your day off with God. And today we're talking about a promise and a negative report. Um, a lot of times we will hear negative reports. And I remember when my daddy was going through his health issues, and I went to many of his doctor appointments. And it seems like there for a little bit, every time we went to the doctor, there was a negative report, and that can just feed into your spirit. But we also knew who was the ultimate physician and the ultimate healer. And we stood on faith. And even though the doctor was telling us one thing, we believed another. And you really have to do that. You have to believe in the promises of God, that He wants you healed and whole and, to live, an abundant life. But that it is talking about, when Israel, they were coming out of the wilderness and they were close, very close to getting into the promised land, that God had promised them. And they were in that transition period. The promise was right there in front of them, but there was a spirit of negativity that had overtaken their hope. And that can so easily be done. When you're going through a storm, whether it be financial, whether it be health, whether it be something in your family, when you're going through that storm, it is so easy for, even though you might be right there to break through, it can be so easy for negativity to get into your spirit. The Israelites, they, as they were wandering and getting ready to go into that promised land, Moses, there's their story in the book of Numbers, and he dispatched 12 spies. He told them to go scout the land of Canaan. Now, these men were, their task was to assess the land and the people who lived there, whether they were weak, strong, a lot of them, a few of them. But right in the middle of that set of instructions, he told the spies in verse 1, let's go there. Let's see, this is in chapter 13, verse 20. Let's read that. And what the land is, whether it be fat or lean, whether there be wood or not, be of good courage and bring back the fruit of the land. So even before they would face the challenge, He wanted them to be armed with courage. And God is saying the same thing to us today. Whatever situation we're going into, whatever mountain is right there in front of us, don't set out with negativity and fear, but be courageous. So when the spies came back, most of them were discouraged. They returned with what the scripture tells us, an evil report. That is in Numbers 14, verse 37. It says, even those men that did bring up the evil report upon the land. You see that evil report that they brought back. Moses had asked them not only to assess the land and its people, but to bring back fruit. The land was so fertile that the cluster of grapes that they brought back had to be carried by 2 men. They were so big, I can't even imagine the size of these grapes. When the spies showed the fruit to Moses, the first thing that they told Moses, it actually was positive. It said the land truly flowed with milk and honey. But watch this. Right after that, go to Numbers 13:28. Nevertheless, the people be strong that dwell in the land. The cities are walled and are very great. They said the people that live there are powerful. They're giants. And we're like grasshoppers compared to them. The city is huge. And it's got such force, you'll never be able to get through. They just kept on with this. The spies only had one good thing to say about that land. And that's it, just one. They knew every detail of the bad information there, but only could remember one good thing they saw. Now that's the spirit of negativity. Negative people, they seek to gather information that will support how they feel, their position. They ignore all the good information and really focus on the bad. So out of the 10 spies, there were only 2. If you go back and read the story in Numbers, Joshua and Caleb refused to believe and to feed into that negativity. While the people of Israel started murmuring after hearing the spies' report, Caleb offered a different perspective. He shook loose from that negative spirit. He stood on what he knew. He did not waver in his faith. He said, let's take them on. He roared with confidence. Caleb believed that with God's help, every giant that stood in their way could be conquered, even when others said it was impossible. See, it doesn't matter what you're facing. Sometimes those doctors can say things that will absolutely blow you away and that will give you no hope at all. But you have to stand in faith, in what you believe in what you know that your God can do. Because He can remove mountains. He can remove cancer. He can remove the drugs that are in your children's lives. He can help any situation. But not everyone shared Caleb's opinion. And you're going to have that. You're going to have people that do not believe how God can truly move. When the people heard that negative report, you know what they did? It says they started weeping and they cried all night. In chapter 14, verse 1, it says, and all the congregation lifted up their voice and cried and wept that night. You know, God never told Moses to check out, he didn't tell the spies to check out the giants. He didn't ask them to notice how indefensible the walls were. He never mentioned these things because he knew they weren't relevant. When God heard the report from the spies, remember what the scripture called it? An evil report. God didn't call it facts. He didn't say it was well thought out. Because these men came back with such a negative report, God called it evil. It was so evil. You remember the judgment was harsh. He banished every single person age 20 and up from entering the land of Canaan. He said, I can't let you walk into that promised land with that negative spirit. Caleb and Joshua were the only 2 people because they stood what was right. They stood what they knew God, no matter what they were facing, no matter what they seen with their natural eye, the ugly, the darkness, the mountain, the disease, what they seen with their natural eye, they knew God gave them a promise and they were going to stand with God. and let Him go before them and fight that battle. God saw in Caleb a different spirit. In verse 24 of Numbers 14, it says, "But my servant Caleb, because he had another spirit with him, and hath followed me fully, him will I bring into the land, and his seed shall possess it." I wonder what we do not walk into because we let negativity get into our spirit. Know that you have a choice. You can either feed into the spirit and let discouragement settle in, let depression settle in, let the enemy work on your mind, or we can be like Caleb. We can take on that different spirit and, say, if God be for us, who be against us? Let's be like Caleb. Let's raise up in these situations and in these times that we're in and take on that spirit of Caleb and say, let's go, God, let's go fight this battle and let's remove this mountain. All right, I love y'all. Y'all have an amazing day. I pray that God breathe on you today and that you receive a good report. All right, bye-bye.